任何耶稣做朋友，他大声讲。
去祷告会祷告。
Do you remember how you used to speak exactly what was on your mind when you were a kid? You barely had a filter. Sometimes the adults would burst out laughing because you were saying something strange or stupid. Other times you might get disapproving stares from strangers for doing something not quite appropriate in public, but you would hardly notice it. And when your parents did try to point it out to you, you might be embarrassed, but quickly recover from it as if it never happened. Back then, when you were in your own little bubble, mostly free from the acute awareness of how others were perceiving you, you were happy. I was the happiest, go-luckiest kid I knew, and it recently came to me as to why. I didn't really care what people thought. I was fearless, goofy, and quite possibly my most authentic self. One word that people would use to describe me back then was bubbly. This word seemed to come up at every year-end report card, and whether it was a good thing or not, I was deemed as the kid who was pretty unafraid to speak her mind. I did alright through primary school, nothing beyond mediocre, sometimes below average, but all I really remember is laughing with my friends, volunteering myself for random skits in class, and winning some silly haiku competition at some point. All these things sadly contributed nothing to my PSLE score, but they still made me really happy, so I did them anyway. And then I grew up. Somewhere along the way, I let the expectations and opinions of others, both real and imagined, occupy my thoughts way more than my own. Unknowingly, I became a calculated person. But not in a conniving way, just in a way where I found myself thinking through every action once, twice, or a million times before I did anything, just to appear more acceptable in the eyes of others. That's what any of us really wants, right? To be accepted. But hardly ever did I stop to think about if I accepted myself. And I don't mean just accepting my flaws, like my terrible struggle with accounting modules, or my acne scars. Those things are important to come to terms with too. But I mean accepting my desires and dreams, my inclinations in their rawest and purest states, without any judgment. And perhaps choosing to go with what feels right every now and then, instead of what I thought would be best for me in the eyes of the world. When I was younger, I definitely didn't have the knowledge or skills I do now, but I had something that the present me seriously lacks. I had courage. Courage to be my most authentic self. Courage to say no when something didn't feel right, and yes to things I feared but knew I wanted. Courage to be bold in my interactions with others and in my relationships. And courage to pursue my true passions, the same ones I've disregarded for years in favor of the conventional route of success. But when I look back on it, those younger years where I was the most courageous were probably some of the happiest years of my life. Not because I got everything right. No 10 or 12-year-old gets everything right. Sometimes the courage to speak my mind would land me in trouble, aka right outside the classroom for being too talkative in class. But a lot of times, that courage helped me to learn more, grow as a person, and form deeper connections with others. I was happy because I was free. And when you're not so caught up in the risk of embarrassment or shame, you realize that exercising that freedom may be worth it in the end, because once you find happiness on your own terms, nobody can take that away from you. I think that society has conditioned us to fear what we truly want in life. We often play it too safe because we are afraid of how others might perceive us. We don't want to be too much, too little, but just right, whatever the arbitrary level of rightness even is. Sometimes I wonder what it'd be like to travel back in time to visit that younger version of myself. To see her going about her day, unbothered, spontaneous, and courageous. Because in all honesty, I feel like she would inspire me more than I would inspire her. At the end of the day, the only way to know if something is meant for you or not is to give it a chance. So that tiny voice inside of you that's been telling you to do something, whatever it may be, I hope that you listen to it. Because if you've been a kid once, then you certainly have it in you to embody that childlike courage again.